All right, folks, welcome into the Late Show. Good evening, WNBA and women's basketball fans, and welcome in to a late night edition of the WNBA 365 Network, your 24/7 365 comprehensive home for all things WNBA and women's basketball this evening. After three great games and a game that probably took longer than normal to finish this evening. Welcome, though, folks, here to the Calamax Sports Studios here in San Diego. Cal McClure joining you folks for the time being. At this point, again, with the late, the game's going late, we should be joined. Again, a keyword should be joined by Crystal Thomas from outside Staples Center sometime within the next 20 minutes or so, hopefully. But also, we'll be joined momentarily by our good buddy Marquez Anderson from StarsHoops.net. This evening, again, folks, for those of you staying up late, thanks for doing so tonight to get your fix on the 3 games tonight again. 3 great games this evening, and of course, one game that just ended roughly about 10 or 15 minutes ago from Staples Center in downtown LA. We'll get full recaps of those games, and of course, get ready for the action on Wednesday night. Of course, folks, as usual, Facebook, Twitter, live chat box open for you folks and for discussion this evening over on Facebook at facebook.com/WNBA365. Find us on Twitter at WNBA365, at Calamac3, at O Marquez, or at Pup Tent 10 with the hashtag WNBA365. And also, folks, as well, find the live chat box, and we'll get to your questions, comments, or concerns when we have a break in the action. Again, folks, want to clarify once more, just so we're all on the same page here again. We'll have no programming coming up starting on Monday, June 19th, all the way till, or at least through June 26th at this point. Again, I'm going to be gone in Vegas and in Reno for a little first of 3 upcoming breaks for the network, folks. And again, I somewhat want to kind of apologize that we've had to kind of have these long stop gaps. But of course, if you folks haven't seen me, of course, being pulled in 30,000 different directions between baseball and college sports and hockey and soccer. Well, that is just to clarify the reasons why we've had such a bit of a long overhaul here with the downtime. So again, I apologize for that, folks. But again, juggling a lot of things. But again, thanks to those of you folks, though, that have been able to stick with us, though, during this point in time. Looks like Marquez was sending me something. Marquez, we're on air right now, so if you just want to come on in, go ahead and do so at this point in time. So again, just wanted to touch base with those notes, folks, again about the programming lineup once more. Again, 3 games, folks, tonight. The Wings and Mystics, the Stars and Storm, and the Sparks and Sky. We're all in action today, and a 2-game schedule for you folks tomorrow for the Wednesday day of coverage in the WNBA. Well, I guess we'll kind of go off and get ready for Game 1, or get to the Game 1 recap first. That was on ESPN2 this evening. The Mystics and Wings this evening from the College Park Center down there in Arlington, Texas. And Dallas started this game off strong, folks, but somewhat went cold, though, second quarter through the second half, and the Mystics put up 101 points. They beat the Wings 101-89. Elena Deladon, 23 points to lead the way for the Mystics. And Taylor Hill and Christy Tolliver combined a 34-point effort between those two, 17 points each for Tolliver and Hill. For the Wings, Skylar Diggins-Smith, 23 points. Corey Johnson, 19 points. Right behind Skylar for the team lead in scoring this evening. And folks, I mean, like I just brought up, for the most part, at least early in the game, this really was Dallas's game, and something clicked off. And obviously, we have talked a little bit in the past about, the young kids playing a lot. Obviously, we've seen breakout games and great breakout starts from both Kayla Davis and also Alicia Gray. And tonight, though, was maybe an instance, though, of somewhat of that youth and inexperience kind of somewhat going downhill a little bit in regards to what we saw in the second quarter. Again, somewhat forcing shots. Obviously, a lot of fouls called in this game, too. But obviously, seeing Dallas forcing the issue, perhaps maybe could have gotten a couple of big rebound situations. But also Washington today, really, though, folks, stepping up their offensive rebounding game today. Of course, we had discussed in the past a lot, about problems either with their zone defense that they went to in the second quarter of this game, or even somewhat with their rebounding. Tonight, they were really, really aggressive, though, with the offensive boards tonight, really was getting down and dirty, also forcing a lot of jump balls and also forcing a lot of Dallas turnovers that obviously could have been cleaned up in this effort tonight, this evening. And also I think, and this has been a talking point too of Crystal Thomas as well, has been somewhat seeing Christy Tolliver kind of go in and out from games. I mean, we've talked somewhat, or she's talked a lot in regards to either her scoring production going down in certain games and then somewhat being hot, cold, up and down roller coaster of emotion. And tonight was probably one of her, I wouldn't say her best game, but one of her better performances, though, in regards to shooting the ball, working on the offensive front of everything. And really, I think between her and Taylor Hill tonight, they played a phenomenal effort, along with EDD again, chipping in 23 points. But again, the other big talking point, though, in regards to that, or this game at least, is what we have really harped on here on the shows the past couple of days in regards to Washington is, where is their backup production going to come? Of course, Emma Meesman is gone right now for the Euro basket tournament happening overseas. So it's like, so we've talked about, of course, so between the Deladon and Meesman relationship, where is all that production going to come from for Washington once Meesman would leave town for the tournament? And at least for right now, it's been Hill and Tolliver. But I still think, though, that at least one other player, I'm not sure who it could be, but one player definitely could obviously chip in more help. I mean, I think today was probably one of Ivory Lotta's better games, I think, though, too. I mean, she was really aggressive as well with her penetration game and along with her three-point shooting today, getting shots in big situations, and also seeing a lot of open looks, though, too, for Washington tonight. Again, going inside, but making that extra pass, finding someone wide open, beating the Dallas man-to-man defense this evening. And Washington, they played a solid effort. For the Wings tonight, though, again, like I said, though, folks, to start off the program with this game, was Dallas looked really good in the first quarter, and then something changed in the second quarter. It looked like that they really had started playing a little bit over-aggressive, I think. I really caught a lot of that in the second quarter of play. Forcing shots, obviously getting fouled was one thing, but obviously forcing a lot of shots, a couple missed layups, obviously, but also the offensive rebounding was also maybe a minor eyebrow raiser, I think, for Dallas tonight. Obviously, Gloria Johnson's been a beast lately in the rebounding department for Dallas. And tonight, chipped in 19 points, but still, though, Dallas was somewhat getting outworked in a very small capacity in regards to offensive rebounding. Of course, the height advantage for Washington with Deladon clogging up the post and clogging up that area obviously is one contributing factor in regards to everything going on right now at this point in time. Once more, again, the Wings faltering tonight. Again, good effort, though, in regards to that. But again, the Mystics win, and they have been a pretty hot team lately, folks, after having a rough go to start the season in regards to the 1 and 2 start, somewhat the panic mode by the team, or even by, I think, obviously we've juggled this circus act before in regards to are you going all in this season if you're a Mystics fan? And somewhat, again, seem to have played a little bit better ever since the season has started. And again, they've been red hot, and they're right now holding that number 2 position at this point in time. As we do now, folks, welcome in our good buddy Marquez Anderson, who was getting in here at this point. Again, Marquez joining us from the Bayou State down there in Louisiana, and of course a contributor to both Project Spurs and StarsHoops.net. Marquez, good to see you, buddy, and of course thanks for providing all of us with the game coverage tonight for the Stars and Storm game on the Stars Hoops Twitter feed. How's it going tonight?
I'm going good. How about you?
Doing great, and again, thanks for coming on in somewhat short notice, and plus as well with we know how that time changes, man, between San Diego and Louisiana. But I think to kind of, I guess, ask for your Cliff Notes version of the Dallas Wings game. Now, obviously, I'm sure you had more of your attention devoted to the Stars game, of course, with both games starting at 5 o'clock Pacific time today. But Marquez, I guess, Cliff Notes version of another Washington win. And again, what I kind of brought up here was somewhat Dallas going cold in stretches and really Washington playing very good team basketball tonight. But what's your takeaway for that game?
Yeah, Dallas played really hard from the start to the finish, but ultimately Washington just had a little bit too much for them to handle, and it really kind of showed towards the end when they were able to stretch the game. Elena Delle Donne was really good. She has really stepped up for Washington so far, especially with Mieseman out. For Dallas, Glory Johnson had another big game, and has really gotten back to herself. I know she struggled early on, but she's really started to put it together, and she's looking really good for them. Really good win for Washington, though.
Marquez, real quick. I mean, just want to quickly throw a couple throw a stat out there for you folks, real quick, from our good buddy Todd Mintz. Todd says, and Marquez, I think he's on the right track though. Washington has really somewhat been a very difficult book to read right now through the 5 game or 6 games that they've played. Again, they're 4-2, or at least 5-2 perhaps now, and they've had a 5-game win streak now. So, and he says they've beaten some poor teams in this stretch, though they will be good as their benches. Also says that Tiana Hawkins, Natasha Cloud, and Ivory Lotta all played great. So Marquez, would you agree perhaps? I think Todd's right, but have the Mystics kind of been sort of a interesting book to read, I guess, so far? Because again, they have somewhat, again, they suffered a little bit playing Los Angeles. That's really, other than maybe LA and Seattle, have they really played anybody really worth noting right now through this stretch of games on their winning streak, at least in your mind?
Well, yeah, they certainly handled business against teams that they should have beaten. But when it comes to teams that are probably a little bit ahead of them in terms of maybe talent-wise, they really haven't contended well. So I think they're about where they should be. I kind of expected them to be around the 4 or 5 range. And I think as the season progresses, I think they'll kind of stay in that little tier right there.
Ryan Rucco, Rebecca Lobo, Luciano Robinson on the ESPN2 broadcast put up a pretty nice little comparison of the 5-game or the 6-game sample size, really, of where the Mystics were entering tonight. Again, they were about 2-4 at this point last season and about 70 points per game average. And Marquez, it's kind of, I don't want to say it's like clockwork, but it's pretty amazing, though, to see how 1 or 2 changes can really help a team out, and seeing their 2017 record, of course, being at 4-2 going into tonight's game, along with the stretch 2 of the 86 points per game they had been averaging. Marquez, I mean, is it really, I know that obviously it doesn't work overnight, but what would you probably say, though, about the comparison that was shown today between Washington at this time last year and seeing the results so far this year in 2017 with those couple of moves made?
Yeah, well, Elena Delle Donne is a game changer regardless of which team she suits up for. So I think her impact alone would be enough to kind of make a team progress and take some steps forward, like you've seen Washington do so far. And then you throw in Christy Tolliver, who is really talented herself, and that just adds another dimension to their offense. And then Taylor Hill is still producing at around the same level she was last year. And then they have some decent pieces off the bench when they're hitting. So I think, like I said, regardless of Elena Delle Donne joining the team, I think that is just enough to really make them progress.
Yeah, I totally agree 100%. MA, going to Dallas real quick. Now, again, like I said earlier on again in the program here, was, again, they started strong tonight, but again, somewhat some stretches of missed baskets. And again, they really let Washington somewhat pull away, though, towards the end of the first half. And again, really after the third quarter, this game was pretty much in the bank for the Mystics. But again, I think that Skylar Diggins-Smith played great again, had 23 points, and Glory Johnson's played pretty well for the most part again, 19 points. But again, something, though, MA, in that second quarter, at least what I saw today watching the game, something just clicked off for the Wings tonight at home. What did you see perhaps go wrong in this game for Dallas this evening? Because obviously they were in there for the first quarter, but again, something just didn't set right, though, after quarter one.
Yeah, well, I think their youth just kind of showed, because you just have to remember they are a really young team. So I think that really showed out on the floor there tonight, especially when Washington was making their runs. There would be times where Dallas did kind of close the gap a little bit, but as soon as they would do that, Washington would respond. So I just think it's just a matter of them not really knowing how to win completely yet. I know they've had some wins so far, but against a team that probably has a talent advantage, I just think you kind of saw them unravel a little bit.
Yeah, obviously a young team that, of course, is learning game by game, day by day. Todd chimes in to say Christie has hit big shots to stop other teams' runs in games that were close, like she did with Los Angeles. She's a vet, and veterans that know how to close out games. So obviously the vets on Washington got the job done for the Mystics. They win 101. 89. Marquez, moving to a game that you, of course, you're recovering tonight for our great friends over at StarsHoops.net on Twitter today. The Storm and Stars. Seattle wins 85-76. The Stars falter to 0 to start the season. Brianna Stewart, 22 points for the Storm. Alicia Clark, 17 points. Kayla McBride, 21 points for the Stars. And Izzy Harrison and Mo Jeff combined for 20 points each, but obviously, sadly, for the Stars, too little, too late against the veteran heavy and, of course, young up-and-coming Storm team. Marquez, you saw this whole game in its entirety. Give us your overall final thoughts. Again, the Stars, hey, I mean, you can't discredit this team, Marquez. I know they still have not won a game, but obviously those players out there care enough to play their tails off until the final buzzer sounds. And a game, Marquez, that really, for at least up until the fourth quarter, they really weren't in until they really got hot towards the end. But as mentioned, too little, too late for SA tonight. But what do you got for us?
Well, yeah, first, at some points in the game it was really ugly. Like really neither team could really hit a basket. So that kind of accounted for some of the shooting troubles on both sides until they both started picking it up again. And when San Antonio really got down, it was almost at least 20, it felt. It really looked like it was getting away for them, but they still managed to find a way to battle back at the end. Mariah Jefferson came in, hit some shots, made some really pretty passes. But case in point, I just think Seattle just had too much. If you look at it, Crystal Langhorne had a really good game. Brianna Stewart, Alicia Clark, they really didn't have a way to answer them, especially for Stewart. There was really no answer for her down low. She pretty much got what she wanted. And then you see in San Antonio's perspective, they've committed a lot of fouls, 25 compared to Seattle's 14, I think. And that kind of was a difference. They really couldn't get many stops without fouling. So Seattle got a lot of chances there. But like I said, like Dallas, San Antonio is a really young team trying to figure themselves out and what works and what doesn't work. And I think that really showed again tonight.
So, Marquez, I mean, obviously, I don't want to go back to what I had talked about a couple of days ago in regards to the Stars and their futility right now. Again, of course, someone on the ominous path again of chasing the 08 Atlanta Dream and the 2011 Tulsa Shock for some, again, very unfortunate records right now. But, Marquez, I think I've seen a lot of commentary via the web, more so on Twitter, in regards to the Jefferson and Plum backcourt or that pairing, at least right now. Marquez, in your mind, I mean, I know we have somewhat hyped, talked about this, but I mean, at this point in time, Marquez, is there really anything to lose for the Stars to continue to try to see what works? I mean, I know that they are looking to at least win a couple games here, but obviously they haven't had a chance right now. But Marquez, at this point in time, in your mind, just in your mind, I mean, I'm not talking about players' mind, but would a win feel like it's a bonus for the team right now in regards to what they have gone through so far in regards to seeing what really works right now for this club? I mean, obviously, the players won't say that first name at Marquez. I mean, what do you think about this? Because I know that Vicki Johnson is somewhat handcuffed right now and tied to a chair of what she can and can't do. But what do you think could happen, I think, in regards to even roster rotations or roster lineups, I think, to get this team on track?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a win would definitely be huge in terms of a confidence booster for the team because no one wants to continuously lose games in the fashion that they're doing. It seems like they are knocking on the door, but the other team would just slam it right in their face, per se. And that really does damage to a team's confidence, especially a young team that's still trying to figure themselves out. Shuffling the roster a little bit to see what does work, there's really no harm in doing that because, I mean, at this point, you still have the best odds for the number one pick again in the 2018 draft, and that draft is going to be super, super stacked. So, I mean, I feel like personally this season, for me at least, was about just taking improvement, whether it was a small one or a big one. And I think anyone that was familiar with the team kind of could tell that there were going to be some bumps in the road, even with all the changes that were made in the offseason. So I just think that's just part of the progression of this team.
Todd chimes in to say perhaps it's time that Erica DeSouza was replaced in the lineup, but Vicki, I'm sure, is trying everything she can. Minutes fluctuate. And Michael Driver says, nice to see that Plum got extended minutes to see what she can do when she plays. However, I think she differs too much to the vets. And I think, Marquez, that might be rookie growing pains. I think, of course, trying to see where you kind of fit in. But good points by Todd and Michael to keep the conversation rolling, folks. But again, Storm over the Stars, 85-76 from the AT&T Center down there in San Antonio, Texas. Last game for the night, Marquez, the game that did not want to end because people wanted to foul. The Sky and Sparks hooked up from Staples Center in downtown Los Angeles. The Sparks win 79-70, a pretty ugly affair for both teams with a lot of stop-and-go play tonight with fouls and everything else included tonight in this ball game. The Sky paced tonight by Courtney Vandersloot with 13 points and Ali Quigley with 12 points. Nneka Ogwumike, game-high, team-high 20 points for L.A., and Elena Beard, even at her age, Marquez, still finds the fountain of youth every night. 13 points and a great game on defense for AB. And also Brian Agler, his 300th career coaching win, including all those back in the ABL and the WNBA across Minnesota, Seattle, and Los Angeles. But Marquez, let's start, though, with how this game did not want to end because Amber Stocks insisted on fouling every single player in the final 30 seconds. Also included tonight was a lengthy 5-minute delay to fix the game clock at Staples Center, which had malfunctioned in the third quarter, and they had to call the entire arena personnel to fix the clock problem. So Marquez, the game that did not want to end finally did end tonight, and it goes in favor of Los Angeles. And also, I think it's important, though, Marquez, to really bank on Chicago not going away easily, where LA really was able to get out to a 9-point lead at halftime, and the Sky clawed all the way back, tied the game, but never got ahead in this game, and LA ran away with it at the final end of it until all the whistles came. But Marquez, what did you make of the Sparks victory? Obviously one that they'll probably take to the bank and say this was probably one of our worst performances at home this season through 3 home games at least. But what did you see? What did you like or dislike about the game night between LA and Chicago?
It was pretty sloppy on both ends, especially offensively. Connecticut. Chicago had some opportunities to really claw back into the game because LA continuously kept the door open for them too, but Chicago was never able to fully capitalize on that. And LA really took a while to pull the game away because they kept letting Chicago have opportunities to get back into it. But yeah, I think one of the positives LA can take from this game is that, yeah, it was one of their worst games of the season, but they still found a way to pull it out. Elena Beard made some really huge plays at the end, and Chicago really had some costly mistakes, whether it was Dolson picking up all those fouls or turnovers late in the game when they could have closed the gap some. So Chicago, I guess they can say that they really made this game ugly, which almost played to their benefit, but they just weren't able to capitalize. But overall, it was a pretty ugly game to watch.
Yeah, Todd just brought it up, Marquez, and we're going to revisit the fourth quarter of this game, especially the last minute of this game in regards to, again, Amber Stocks really, really trying to stall this game in regards to all the fouls in the final minute, final 30 seconds, the final 23 seconds, and I think that Todd's right that perhaps Marquez a bit of blame there, but Marquez, when you're down 10, though, in the final waning 30 seconds, it's kind of like, why and bother drag the game on when you're down double digits in the final quarter and you're losing with 30 seconds to play in the game? Marquez, in your mind, was it really necessary to really drag this game out? Of course, it was a knockdown, grind-out game for both teams. But, M.A., do you think it was really necessary for this game to keep dragging on to as long as it did tonight because of the fouling being done in the final minute of the contest?
No, not really. I think at that point, the game was pretty much already in hand for LA. And I really don't understand why. Well, I could understand the concept, but really, at that point, Chicago was pretty much out of it, in my opinion. And even when they were having those chances to close the gap, they just didn't. So I don't really know why they thought that they could with like 30 seconds left, but hey.
Hey, it is what it is. Marquez, Todd also wants to talk about Elena Beard. Elena Beard, I think, Marquez, has probably been one of, I wouldn't say the number one, but one of maybe top 5, top 10, perhaps underrated players in my mind in regards to how long I've watched the WNBA for the past 13, 14 years. And to take Todd's pointer, she really is the straw that stirs the drink in Los Angeles. Every time Chicago threatened tonight to take the lead, she made a big basket or had a big defensive play. Marquez, it just seems like even at her age, she still finds a way to find that fountain of youth for the game, and just goes back to her old self. She was really, really pesky on defense. All the steals, all the big rebounds, or big shots and clutch situations. Marquez, what would you say about AB, though? I mean, would she be in your top 5, top 10 underrated players list, or what would you probably say about her play so far this season? Really, I think feeding off of last year's championship season.
Yeah, she's been remarkable. Even dating back to last season, she was really impressive, especially considering her age. I know when Sparks games are on TV, the announcing team really harps on her age and the things that she's still able to do as a veteran. And I think that really just goes to show to her, that really just shows her hard work and dedication to playing. I think this is probably going to be her last year. And I think she's still really, really impressive level. And I just think she's really an important piece of that Sparks roster. Like tonight, you saw how she was able to kind of take over late and make big plays that really pushed them to victory tonight. And I just think that just shows her value. She's really, really valuable. And it's really impressive, like I said.
Marquez, back to the Sky real quick, and Todd chimes in to say that they played a pretty gritty game tonight in regards to, even though they lost by 9, and also that they dragged out this game, as mentioned, and they dragged it out till almost showtime here tonight. But he says performances like this and making a few more shots could mean some more wins. He thinks Boyette and Quigley played well. They also played some solid defense tonight as well. So Marquez, I think that, I mean, obviously we don't like moral victories in sports, but Chicago hung in there against the defending champions this season, of course, and the champs have not really been at have not hit their full stride yet still through the first 6 or 7 games of the season. But Marquez, what could a game like this do, though, for a team like Chicago, who has been slumping as of late so far this season?
Yeah, I guess you can say they can kind of take this as a moral victory. They really made the game ugly. They really slowed it down and kind of forced LA into some really bad situations. But they still just weren't able to capitalize. And I think maybe as they get some more experience together, especially with their new coach and this new system, that I think they'll probably figure it out, hopefully, maybe. But if not, I still don't think there's much for them to be sad about, because, I mean, like I said, this draft coming up is going to be really good, and they can really get a piece that's going to help them out in the future.
So again, folks, to revisit your Tuesday scoreboard for games, Mystics 101, Wings 89, Storm 85, Stars 76, Sparks 79, Sky 70. Only one home team gets a win tonight this evening in the W. Marquez, we're going to actually go now to the story that Crystal Thomas and I were talking about for a good part of the show last night. Again, and we wanted to get your thoughts on it tonight. But again, Wnba, again, I saw a couple stories a couple of days ago, roughly, maybe in about a week or so ago, again, about Lisa Borders, WNBA president, being spotted at the NBA Western Conference Finals, and also was at Games 1 and 2, I believe, of the NBA Finals up there, talking and negotiating with Warriors owner Joe Lacob, again, Marquez, who really was the first guy to come forward 3 years ago when the LA Sparks had gone up for sale after the sale of the franchise by Paula Madison and her group. So Marquez, seeing that, immediately came to my mind about the long debated issue about WNBA expansion. Now, Crystal and I talked about this for a good part of the show last night. So, Marquez, knowing again that the Warriors have really become the face of NBA basketball, along with the Cleveland Cavaliers in the past couple of seasons, and knowing that Joe Lacob was also involved with the ABL back in the 90s and with the San Jose Lasers, who played at the Cal Palace back in the 90s, Marquez, along with the Warriors and their G League affiliate in Santa Cruz, along with them moving to a new arena next season, Marquez, if and when the WNBA does expand, would Golden State, a la San Francisco or Oakland, be the first potential target city in your mind for league expansion?
Yeah, I would think so, especially since they've kind of made their interest known. I know a lot of people would be really excited to have a team back in that area, especially since the Monarchs aren't there anymore. But I think if you add one, you're going to have to add two to kind of maintain some balance. So, of course, they're going to have to find some work to find another city that's potentially interested in adding a team, whether that be, say, one in Tennessee or maybe a Louisville or wherever. I think it'll really be smart to have two added at the same time as opposed to one, then taking a season or two to find an additional partner for that expansion balance.
Yeah, no, I agree. One quick comment from Michael Driver about Elena Beard's play. He says for sure AB is definitely on the top 10 list of underrated players in the league. She has really taken care of herself, and I think she's another player who has used cutting-edge dieting or training, so perhaps there. So, all right, so Marquez, you're pretty much set, I think, with San Francisco, Oakland, the Bay Area. So, Marquez, that also brings back or brings the question about two other West Coast cities that, of course, have had long-standing have had franchises in the past, Marquez. Two that come to mind is both Sacramento, as mentioned with the Monarchs and their fan base, but also Portland, Oregon, because of the tweet from Portland Trailblazers star Damian Lillard a couple of days ago that said that he basically said bluntly, you know, Portland, I think, would definitely support a team because of what we've done with basketball here. Now, obviously, the Blazers have kind of gotten themselves back on the NBA map, Marquez, and but Marquez, though, I think, though, it is noting, though, that there is a minor leap of faith or a gamble, I think, if the WNBA was to go back to cities that, of course, had franchises. If you think about Sacramento and Portland and Houston and maybe Orlando, those are the four cities that really come to mind. So, Marquez, I think let's start with Sacramento again, because Kevin Johnson, longtime Phoenix Sun, great, one of my favorite players of all time, great and guy running for governor, I think, in the next couple of years for the state of California, Marquez. He really, of course, he's like the main guy that saved the Kings from leaving for relocation and built them the brand new Golden One Center. Marquez, I know that KJ is no longer the mayor, but he really also spoke heavily of bringing the WNBA back. Marquez, out of the two cities, out of both San Francisco getting a new venue and as well as Sacramento, which one in your mind would probably be the front runner if, in fact, the WNBA added one West Coast expansion city in the future? Would it be Sacktown or the Bay Area?
I feel like it really wouldn't make that big of a difference because I'm not from California, but isn't all that kind of around about in the same area, like give or take like an hour or so apart?
Yeah, well, I mean, so you're either going to go San Francisco, which is on the Bayfront, or you're going to go to the state capital of California. But it's like the only difference I can really say.
Mm-hmm. Probably San Francisco, I guess, by virtue of it probably being a more attractive location in terms of, I guess, the fan experience or whatever. But like I said, I don't think it would make that big of a difference since they're kind of roughly in the same area, give or take. But I think San Francisco would be cool.
So, Marquez, I think Todd Mintz might be standing and applauding from his home up in Buena Park, California, because he brought up Louisville and Memphis last night, and you just did on the program this evening for the East.
Oh.
Now, Marquez, if my jigsaw memory serves me correct, there was a preseason WNBA tourney, like round robin style, held in Orlando. Of course, they had the Miracle there from early 90s till about 2003 or 2002 when they left for Connecticut to play Mohegan Sun. And I think hearing from fans that had gone to the tournament in Orlando that they had great attendance down there. Marquez, where do you stand about former cities? Portland, Sacramento, Houston, Orlando. Where do you stand about the former cities perhaps trying for a second time to bring a WNBA franchise back, much like we've seen, or not much like we've seen, but what would you say, though, or where do you stand, I guess, about those cities trying again with the WNBA, giving it another shot in your mind?
Yeah, well, if the interest is there, then why not? I'm not part of the side that's just like, well, if you were already there and you couldn't make it last, then you shouldn't be in consideration anymore, because things happen. But I think if they have a dedicated group of owners and a dedicated fan base, I think it'll work. Whether it's in a city that's previously had a team or a place that's never had one before. I just think as long as the owners are dedicated and are willing to take that, I guess, loss you can say in those first couple years, then why not let them?
So, Marquez, Crystal and I talked about going back to the former cities. Todd agrees. He says Frisco would be better, honestly, than Sacramento, perhaps, of course, and Sacramento and San Francisco, I think, also would agree. But I'd take either one just because it'd be a NorCal rival for Los Angeles to have for the first time in a long time. And then, Marquez, that also brought up the question also brought up my oddball question, was what about a potential barnstorming or somewhat like the Globetrotters, Marquez, where the WNBA teams don't play their preseason games at their home venues. I know that the Sparks have played games at USC, UCLA, and they somewhat have done, again, folks, I know I'm comparing apples to oranges here, but again, Marquez, at least with the Lakers, because again, they're one of the closer teams to San Diego. Most 7 of their 8 preseason games are normally in Southern California. They go on a tour. They go through Ontario and Anaheim, San Diego. They come here for a game every year and play one game in Las Vegas. Marquez, I know that you only have about 2 to 3 WNBA preseason games with Marquez. I still think that all it would take was, for hypothetical situation, Marquez, the Sparks play San Antonio in San Diego, and all it would take was some person that has, money coming out of their you-know-what, and maybe has a family of daughters, and all it would take for them was to go to one game, and they would think or say, screw the losses in the first couple of years. I want to bring a team to my city. Marquez, would that, in a very microscopic way, perhaps not only help build fan bases of all the WNBA franchises, but even spark interest in other cities that maybe have a fractured sports history like San Diego does? Of course, losing the NFL the past couple of years, working to get Major League Soccer here, having professional baseball and minor league hockey. Marquez, how about those cities, though, that maybe have people that want to invest money in the sports world and want to try out and start with the WNBA?
Well, yeah, I think that would be a good idea to have them host preseason games, because not only is it a way to open up the WNBA to new people, it's a way to get an idea of how much interest is actually in that area. If you get a good turnout from one of those games, and maybe potential owners and investors will say, hey, maybe this can work here. And you take that next step after that. So like you said, I think it'll be really an interesting idea to just have that kind of going around, and I'm sure it's been talked about. So we'll see.
Michael Driver with an interesting city. He says, have to go with SF no contest. Another town maybe should be Vancouver, British Columbia. Let's go outside, or let's get outside the box. Whew. After the Grizzlies left, though, man, but hey, I would kill to have a WNBA team in Vancouver. Maybe the Canucks can help out, Michael, and they can play at Rogers Place for all that I know as well. Todd also says they need to go to towns that are sports crazy and not have had franchises. Louisville, Memphis, Boston, Denver would top my list, along with San Francisco as well. And Todd brought up Denver last night as well, of course. The Nuggets, the Avalanche, the Rapids, many teams up there as well. Boston, of course, the Sun are close by, but Boston, I think, with the Celtics and their rich history at the TD Garden. Memphis, I think, with the Grizzlies kind of turning things around, and FedEx Forum is a great venue to go watch a basketball game. And Louisville, of course, with them being crazy for basketball as well, and everything else. But also, Marquez, that also brings me to one other question real quick. Now, again, staying with the expansion topic, Marquez. So obviously we heard from Damian Lillard from the Portland Trailblazers, again, about maybe Portland getting a franchise. Marquez, would you perhaps consider or think that any current NBA ownership would perhaps do what they did back in the 90s and own their own franchise, a la the Spurs and Stars, the Mercury and Suns, and the Liberty and Knicks? Would any team, maybe Portland, maybe Charlotte, I think with Michael Jordan being at the helm of that franchise, would any other NBA owners consider perhaps going the WNBA route and getting an expansion club for their team in regards to maybe Portland or Charlotte or maybe any other NBA cities? What do you think?
Well, with that, I think owners take kind of caution and heed to how their own NBA franchises are doing.
Good point.
For example, if your NBA team is kind of struggling with the tennis themselves and interest in that area, why aren't you bringing along another team? Because it seems like you're kind of setting them up for failure. But also conversely, though, you see Minnesota, the Timberwolves aren't that good, but the Lynx are, and the Lynx do have really good interest there. So I think it really is I think it's just really a toss-up, because you really, really never really know how people will come out. And I think another thing that kind of will be a determining factor for some people is the other kind of sports there. Like if you have baseball already going on and say soccer already going on, would you bring in another team to kind of compete with that also? Because I think that's sort of an underrated aspect that people don't really think about sometimes, is like other competition, local competition there. But I still think it just depends on the type of owner they are. Like if they're willing to take that loss and invest, then why not? But if they aren't, I don't think you'll see it as frequent.
Marquez, I will bid one more dollar than you like on The Price is Right, and also throw in Phoenix. In the time I've gone there, of course, the Suns have been somewhat mediocre the past couple years since Steve Nash left, of course, and the Mercury have drawn well since day one. I think the best story I can recall from Phoenix, Marquez, the first time I went there was I was walking to the playoff game with Tulsa 2 years ago, and a guy on a bike just off work from the local Carl's Jr. asked me, "Hey man, what time's the game tonight?" I said, "It's 7 o'clock. It's going to be, 7 o'clock game time." He said, "I got enough time to go home and get my jersey and come back for the game." So the Mercury, of course, have been doing great down there in PHX. Todd also says about Portland real quick. He says Portland as a market has a incomplete grade from 2000 to 2002. They were not in the postseason, nor had a winning season. My memory was attendance in Moda Center was not good, but that was 15 years ago. It's still Rose Garden, Todd, to me. It's still Rose Garden. It's not Moda Center. It's Rose Garden to me. Much like it's still the San Diego Sports Arena here in San Diego for the Gulls, and soccer's playing down here for minor league hockey and pro indoor soccer. All these wacky arena names. With that, Marquez, 2 games on the Wednesday schedule. One early morning, one late night game. And folks, both games can be seen in their entirety on either NBA TV or another exciting Twitter live stream for the night game tomorrow. First game up, MA, is the Dream at Liberty, 8 o'clock a.m. for camp day tomorrow from the world's most famous arena up there in NYC. Marquez, what do you got for us?
Ooh, this is kind of a tough one for me because Atlanta has been playing pretty well as of late, and New York has really been playing pretty good as well. Kia Stokes has really found her groove as of late. Shavonte Zealous as well. I don't know. I think I'm just gonna go with New York on this one, only because I think they've looked a little bit better. It's really hard. Like, this is really like pulling me in 2 different directions. I'm gonna go with my initial decision. I'm gonna just go with New York.
So you got New York. Both these games are actually just really, find a quarter and flip it and see what it lands on. I'm going to actually go with ATL in this one, Marquez, because this team is really, I think they really have surprised a lot of people in regards to how they've played so far this season. I think just, knocking off LA to give them their first loss of the season, how they've played so far. I mean, like I say, Leger Clarendon's playing at, Leger Clarendon and Hayes are both playing at all-star levels right now. And really, I think Atlanta really has, shocked a lot of people with their start. So I'm going to go with ATL. You've got New York in the morning game. So again, ATL, the Dream and Liberty, 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, folks. Again, can be seen, by the way, on NBA TV to start off your Wednesday morning if you're a morning time person. And then Marquez at 4 o'clock Pacific time from Indianapolis on Twitter, Phoenix at the Fever. What do you got for us?
I think I'm going to go with Phoenix on this one. Indiana has kind of been struggling as of late. Phoenix has really gotten off to a pretty good start. Taurasi and Griner have been playing pretty well as well. So I think I'm just going to go with Phoenix.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you, Marquez. I'll put an X up in the tic-tac-toe board for this one. I think that Indiana, though, Marquez, they also can be a lot like Atlanta, and they can really shock people. Obviously, they also knocked off LA coming back from a big deficit. But I think, though, that Phoenix just has enough artillery in the locks and the shed to perhaps overcome Indy. But this is not going to be any type of blowout, I think. I think this is going to be more of those, I call them squeakers. It'll be squeakers. It'll be pretty close games. So we both have Phoenix in the nightcap, and I've got Atlanta in the morning game, and Marquez has New York in the morning game. So again, folks, your 2-game Wednesday schedule, 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 o'clock Eastern on NBA TV. The Dream at Liberty, Dream on. And then at 4 o'clock Pacific time, 7 o'clock Eastern, Phoenix at Indiana live streaming on Twitter. And Todd says Twitter. Yes. Daniel Bryan type champ. With that, MA, let's get your final thoughts on the 3 games tonight. Again, the Mystics red hot win again. The Storm knock off San Antonio. Stars still searching for win number 1, and the Sparks in a very dragged out game knock off Chicago. What do you got for us?
Yeah, I think all 3 games pretty much went as expected. I think everyone kind of predicted those 3 teams that won would be the winners of those 3 matchups. So nothing really surprising there.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Washington, 50-point first half, was the most points he scored in the half so far of the season. Still seeing some bright spots with the Wings so far. The Storm, I don't think a lot of people have them up 2 or 3 right now at this point, but they play great basketball. The Stars obviously still have a lot of things to work out, kinks to work out. They're going to get win number 1 sometime soon, and then the Sparks and Sky. Not the best game for Candace Parker, but again, we're seeing why Neko Wnba was MVP of this league last season. We're seeing why Elena Beard has found a youth every game, and also not too much to hang your head for if you're a fan of the Sky or what have you. Great game, hung in there up until the very end of the evening. But again, folks, your final scores from Tuesday: Mystics 101, Wings 89, Storm 85, Stars 76, Sparks 79, Sky 70. Wednesday schedule of games: Dream at Liberty, 8 a.m. Pacific time on NBA TV, 4 o'clock in the evening. Merc at the Fever, 4 o'clock Pacific time, 7 o'clock Eastern, live streaming on Twitter. With that, folks, we'll call it a night right here. We will perhaps be on tomorrow night. We'll let you folks know, of course, via social media. If not, we'll be back here presumably on Friday. And if not tomorrow or Friday, back here on Monday night, so we can get to our Player of the Week poll question back here on Monday, if not tomorrow or Friday. With that, folks, for our good buddy Marquez Anderson from the Stars Hoops, from StarsHoops.net and the Party Spurs Network, Callum McClurg signing off from the Calimax Sports Studios here in San Diego. Take care and good night. Bye-bye.